Hello and welcome back to another episode of TNT with your girl G. I hope you are doing well and that you have had a blessed week, a blessed weekend, a blessed month so far. If you are new, this is a faith-based podcast where we just talk about life. We talk about things that we've been through. We talk about things that we're currently going through, all through the lens of Jesus. So thank you so much for joining. And today's episode, I'm really excited. I gave a little bit of a tease in the last episode, but I am going to be talking about none other than my journey kind of growing up mixed race, and just a little bit about me, because it's Black History Month. And I think it's just important to just recognize our roots, recognize the importance of this. And I don't know, you don't always hear about people's stories. Like, I love it at church when we get a time every year to just hear about people's testimonies, and they are so encouraging and they are so uplifting. And that's another reason why I started this podcast, is because I wanted to share what God was doing in my life and in other people's life, and how he's shaped us, how he's molded us. And it just builds your faith. And also, a lot of the time, you don't even know what people have walked through. You don't even know what they're carrying. And it's just so beautiful. It's so beautiful just to see the tapestry that God has woven. And a big part of my story is the fact that I am mixed race. I am half English, half British, English, and half Jamaican. My dad, that is my Caribbean side, and my mum is my English side. And it has been a real blessing and a privilege to grow up with two different cultures, and just be completely immersed. My parents, shout out to you, mum and dad, because they have done such an incredible job of nurturing both of our cultures. It's not been that one has been neglected. We have always known our heritage. We've always known where we've come from. My mum, bless her, braids our hair. She's always done her very best to make sure that we are nurtured for in the right way. And it's not easy. And it's a learning curve. And even for us, we're constantly learning, curly hair to maintain. Wow. Yeah. But it has just been such a journey and such a blessing. And so, I just wanted to share a little bit about that, and kind of the ups and downs, because I'm not going to lie, my journey hasn't been plain sailing. It hasn't been a straightforward, yes, this is who I am. No, it's been a real battle. Due to different circumstances, but actually just seeing how God has brought me through, how God has shaped me, how God has made me who I am today, and I'm here filming an episode about this, which is really exciting. So I think the first thing to note is that, I shared it in my testimony, my first episode. Oh my gosh, that feels so crazy, because that was nearly coming up a year. But my first episode, I shared a little bit about my identity struggles and how that was hard, and it's basically the first time that I realized that I was different, that I realized that I was mixed race, I was very young, to be fair. When I think you are naturally, I think as parents you might think, they're so young, how do they, but it's amazing how children pick up on things. And the place that I grew up in a village. It was a very small village, and with a village in West Sussex, there was not many Black people. And I think there was maybe 3 Black people in my whole school, maybe, I think. And that's my whole school, that's not my class. I was the only Black person in my class. And where it was a village, you knew, like, we are very much a minority here. And it also meant that, like, I guess everyone kind of knows who you are, which is interesting because it's just highlighted even more. And so that was probably the first time I really noticed that I was different, was at school, when you are with everyone else and other school children, and you notice that you're different, and you notice that your hair's different, and you notice that your skin color's different, and that both your parents, then they're not the same. And it raised questions. It definitely raised questions. And I think naturally within inside of me, I struggled with believing that, I don't even know where it stemmed from, because it's crazy to think from such a young age, but I had this belief that I wasn't good enough, and I just wanted to be like everybody else. And so I would say to mum, like, Mum, why can't I be like you? Why can't I be white with straight hair and blue eyes? And then I'd be like, to my dad, why can't I be like you? I didn't want to be, I didn't have a category. I felt like I didn't fit in. There was my mum, and then there was my dad. And not only that, it was like when I was with my dad's family, none of my dad's family were mixed race. Nobody looked like me. And then when I was with my mum's family, nobody looked like me. And it was really hard. And I just didn't understand. I was like, but why am I different? But why? Because as much as you're saying all these things, as much as you're telling me that I'm beautiful, I just feel odd. I don't feel like I fit in. And that was an interesting experience, school, because I did feel on the outside. I did feel like people, not that they weren't nice, but maybe people didn't really know how to respond and how to I don't know, like when you've been brought up in a certain way, and as young children, like there were comments made that some had to be addressed at school and brought up, and some like you just take because you want to fit in. And I found that I did that quite a lot. I laughed at jokes that were not funny, and I probably took a lot of racial comments that I just didn't want to be the center of attention. I just didn't want to make a scene. It was like, just get past this. Just yeah, like this is making me feel so uncomfortable. So why do I want to like sit in it and address it? I just want to like ignore it. And I think that's the thing. It's like ignoring it, but what does that do? Because ignoring it, it's still there, but you're just choosing to ignore it, as opposed to saying, actually, that's made me feel really uncomfortable. Can you not say that? And then it's addressed. Do you know what I mean? But when you're young, you feel like, I felt like I didn't really have a voice. I think that was a big thing. I felt like I didn't really have a voice. And then my sister was born, and it opened my eyes. It changed things, because I was like, there's somebody that looks like me. There's somebody that actually looks like me. Like, yes, my dad is different, but he's not the same as me. Now there's somebody that looks like me, that I can do life with, that when things happen, we can talk about this. And that has been a real blessing. Having siblings to be able to talk with, to be able to relate with, to be able to discuss, it has been like the biggest blessing by far, like the biggest blessing. And so, did I struggle with my identity being mixed race? 100%, because then what I struggled with at primary school and at such a young age then kind of intensified. It just got intensified, is that a word? It just got a bit more intense in high school, because naturally in high school you want to fit in, like you want to be seen as a certain way, a certain, I don't know, like person. And naturally when you look different on the off, you're like, oh, I'm already set back. And it's not that I didn't love, I want to make it clear, I loved my heritage. I loved that I got to have so many different things and be exposed to just different food and different music and all of these different experiences that I was exposed to. But my issue was that I wasn't comfortable in the skin that I was in. I wasn't comfortable. And that was because I wasn't focusing on where my identity lies in God. Like what I talked about in my last episode, that our identity is in Him. And so I tried to fit in. I would straighten my hair. I would, just try to like fit in as much as I could. And it makes me sad to think about it, because I'm like, oh my goodness, like Georgia, why? Because now I'm like, I absolutely love my curls. I absolutely love my curls, like, and just who I am. I'm like so in love with who I am. And it's sad to think that there was a time that I didn't particularly love who I was, or that I struggled with that. But I also want to say, like, that's okay. It's okay to have these struggles. It's okay to question things. It's okay to not understand things and why we feel the certain way that we do. But the important thing is where we go to. It's important that we don't go inward into ourselves and wallow in that. It's important that we go to God, who crafted us, who created us, who knows who we are and loves us and has a purpose for us, you know? And that's when my struggles changed. That's when, because honestly, it was really interesting actually when we had the whole Black Lives Matter movement. And not saying that I agreed with everything, I'm just going to put that out there now. And it was an interesting time, but there were a lot of things that I probably hadn't processed and dealt with that got brought to the surface. Lots of like microaggressions that maybe I knew it was wrong in the time, like saying things like, oh, like you're a bit like a coconut, or, you know, just the whole hair comments, or, oh, like I'm nearly as dark as you, like where you've been on holiday. Really? Because you've gone on holiday and got tanned, like this is my skin color. Anyway, moving on. Let me not stay in that. But yeah, like when it was these things, when those had happened back in the day, when I was at school or whatever, you just kind of take them on the chin and you just, and you learn to just suppress it. And so like when you've done that for so long, and that's what happened I think with a lot of people, is it's like you learn to just, it's a coping mechanism to just suppress it, to just, I've just got to move on. I've just got to move on. Like I can't think about, because when you think about these things too much, it can be a downward spiral, because you can be like, well, why have I got this job? Have I got this job because I tick a diversity box? Or have I got this job because like I actually am right for this job? And it's like when we focus on those, that's when it is dangerous. But we have to focus on God and be like, do you know what? Actually, God has given me this role for a purpose. It's not because there's a reason why I'm here. There's a reason why I'm in this place. There's a reason why I'm walking through this season. There's a reason why I'm doing this episode. Like there are reasons for everything, and God is in the whole plan, and he's in the whole picture, and it's important that we focus on him and not inward. And so when all that happened, it was like all these things got brought to the surface, and there were lots of things that people had to deal with and process, but it was how we dealt with them. And actually it was turning to God and being like, God, yes, these are some of the experiences I've had, and yeah, that makes me sad, but actually I thank you that you have held me, that you've not left me, that even in those times where I felt alone, you were with me. And I thank you, God, that you've brought me through that. And actually, you know, seeing these things, people probably didn't even really understand, because I wasn't bold enough to speak to them about it. Like, it's not just solely on them. And I think that's a really important thing. It's not solely on that person, because if we don't use our voice to speak up and say, actually, that's really offensive. Actually, I don't really like what you're saying. Actually, that hurts me. People aren't going to know. And I think that's a lot of the time, like, and I'm not saying that it's right, but people aren't necessarily educated, and some people genuinely don't know how, because they've never been in that situation. If you've got someone who isn't mixed race, who isn't black, how are they going to know what it feels like? How are they going to know? Because they're not in our, so we have to help each other out. We have to help each other out in love. And I think that's the thing. It's not, obviously there are times when it is not okay and it is racist, and yeah, 100%. But when it is just uneducated, like, we have to also we respond in love, respond in a way that, how does God do it? How does God love his people? You know, there can be a lot of misunderstanding, and it's how do we combat that? And yeah, so those were kind of my struggles, but it all changed when I fixed my eyes upon Jesus, when I learned about who I was, when I accepted who I was. I think that was a massive thing. It was accepting who I was. It was accepting who God had called me to be and who God had created me to be, and accepting that I have curly hair and it's beautiful and I don't need to straighten it. It was accepting the fact that I have the best of both worlds. I have my mum's side and I have my dad's side. I have the best of both worlds. Not that, like, why can't I be this and why can't I? No, I have the best of both. That is so cool. Like, I love it. Like, I can have curly hair and I can have straight hair if I want to. I can have the best of both. And it was completely embracing that, and embracing who I was, and embracing, like, who I am and what I can do. This is like, accepting who you are is such a superpower, because you're just like, I love myself. And not in like I love like in a really beautiful, like, I love everything about who God has called me to be. Like, you know, I have features of my mum and I have features of my dad, and that is so beautiful. And it was learning and reading the Bible and reading scriptures of who God says we are, and that we're supposed to be different. We're supposed to be unique. Like, heaven is going to look like, the most beautiful array of backgrounds and cultures, and also it's like, I don't know how my story is going to benefit other people, but God does. And it's trusting in him. And it's like, God has made me who I am for a purpose, for a reason. So it's not trying to be somebody else, because then I'm like not living in how I'm supposed to live, not living the life that God has called me to live, but actually, and then it's like, how can I help someone if I'm not being who I am? And how can I live to my full potential if I'm trying to be somebody that I'm not? And just being as well in like community and having a mixture of friends has been such a blessing. Having a mixture of friends from different backgrounds, from different areas of life, from different cultures has been such a blessing. And I just am so thankful for the community that God has put around me. But not only that, the church, like my church is just growing and growing, like with different diversity, and it's so exciting. And I'm like, this is what heaven looks like. This is like a tiny little like fraction of what heaven looks like. And it's so cool when you learn about different things, when you get to go on different trips around the world. Like, please travel. Like, it just opens your eyes. And I'm so thankful for just everything God has brought in my life and his timing. His timing is so perfect. And yeah, maybe I had to walk through certain things, and maybe I had to I just needed to come to a place of understanding. And sometimes you have to walk through certain things in order to build your character. Because if you'd have told me years ago that I'd be sitting down to make an episode to talk about being mixed race and struggles that I had growing up, and I'd have been like, what are you on? Like, huh? Get out. But God's timing is perfect. And I'm just gonna like finish it off with like, what is something that I would say to my younger self / anyone who's listening who relates or has children who are growing up mixed race, or I don't know. And I think something I wish I would said to my younger self is just enjoy learning about who you are. Enjoy learning about who you are, but trust God. And trust that you are made for something greater. Trust that you are made for something greater. And all of these things that make you who you are beautiful. But not only that, you're gonna be a blessing. Because I never thought I was a blessing. I was like, oh, like, how is this curly hair a blessing? Like, it takes so long to do. Like, I have to get these kind of creams and this and that and that. But actually, it's a real blessing. I love my curly hair. I love that I'm different. And it's celebrating those differences. It's celebrating the fact that I have curly hair. It's celebrating the fact that I have caramel chocolate skin. It's celebrating the fact that I have English heritage and I have Jamaican heritage. It's celebrating all of these things and celebrating my parents and who they have raised and created. And yeah, I think I would just say to my younger self, or anyone that's listening, like, don't get caught up in comparing yourself. Don't get caught up in what the world deems as beautiful. Like, trends change all the time. Like, 1 minute a slick back bun is in style, the next minute straight hair's in style, the next minute curly hair. But you will always be in style to God. He will always love you. He will always appreciate you. And and I would just say, like, love yourself, because there is just such beauty, and yeah, there's a real superpower about accepting who you are. There's just like an aroma that comes off when you know who you are. Like, when you see those people who know who they are, who know that they are loved, who know that they are chosen, there is just something special. There's something unique about them, and it's that they are walking in what they are supposed to be walking in. They're walking in their purpose. And I would just encourage anyone that is going through some struggles, that is going through any like identity issues, that are going through because the thing is, it's not only just about like, okay, like being mixed race. There's so many identity issues that we struggle with, and my advice would just be to get in your word, to read your Bible, but also get in a group, in a community of people that can support you and love you and encourage you in the right way. And yeah, that's what I would say. Just be with people who are gonna support you and uplift you. Those people who are not, like, not cut them out, but just pray for them and pray that God, like, if they're right for you to be in their life, that okay, cool, that he'll help you be a blessing to them. And if not, that God will remove them, because people are in our life for seasons, and actually it's important that we are with people who are going to love us in those hard times and support us in those hard times. So yeah, I would just encourage you that also you're going to get through this, because when I look back, like, as much as someone could probably give me advice, some of the things I had to walk through for myself. I had to learn. I had to learn to love myself. I had to learn to accept who I was. And it's not easy. It's hard. But you will get through it. You will get through it. And there is going to be such a blessing and such a testimony when you walk through this. And you're going to come out so strong. You will. But you will get through it. And for those parents who are supporting their children going through this, you will get through it. You will get through it. God is using this. Just keep praying. Keep pressing in. Keep being on your knees. Keep loving them. They will get through it, and so will you. So yeah, on that note, that's kind of like a little bit of my story growing up mixed race, some of the challenges I faced, but how God has just kept me going. He has been the light in my life, and he just shines through me and just highlights even more how incredible it is to just be different. And we're all different. Like, we're not the same, and that's so exciting. We need to celebrate our differences, celebrate the fact that we are unique, that we have been crafted specifically. Like, that's so cool. We're all different. We're all unique. Let's celebrate that. Let's love that. But yeah, I'm going to end this episode. Next week, we've actually got another episode around this, which is exciting. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Like I said, if you relate in any way or need prayer, please let me know. And yeah, I just pray you guys have a blessed week. And I'll be back next week with another episode of TNT with your girl G.